Most people don't think about it, but this word should is actually a form of shame. You're shaming yourself. I shouldn't eat this, or I shouldn't stay awake for this long. You're trying to shame yourself out of the bad habit. But what usually happens when you do this is that the bad habit never goes away. And you can even feel the difference, right? Let's say you want to go to the gym and you say, I should go to the gym today. And you change the word should to I want to go to the gym today. And you will feel the difference immediately. I should go to the gym, and you will feel this shame put on top of you. But I want to go to the gym. There is no shame. It's just pure desire. Another way is I get to go to the gym, right? Which get to is actually gratefulness. Right? So now you're using the emotion gratefulness. Shame is the lock that binds your bad habits together. What's up, guys? This is Marvin Payne, and in today's video, I want to talk about the emotion shame. So, if you don't know, this is the second video of the emotion series. So, if you haven't watched the intro, make sure to watch that on why I'm making these videos on emotions and the emotion series. But to give you a quick overview, right? In my opinion, all decisions are emotion based, even though most people think it's logical. So by working with your emotions, you'll be able to make higher quality decisions, both in your professional life and in your personal and romantic life. I also think working with emotions is one of the most effective ways to actually find your true authenticity and your uniqueness, which again you can say will lead to, the most inner peace and joy. And lastly, I think working with emotions is also the best way to actually break bad habits or emotional patterns, you can say. And I think it's kind of implied in the name too, with emotional patterns, right? But again, if you want the full video on that, check out the intro video. And because of that, I'm diving deeper into each of the main emotions, which will be this emotion series. The first video was on fear, and this video will be on shame. So we can dive into it. I think the main points for this video will be, what exactly is shame? Like why are we avoiding shame, and what happens? What are the negative consequences when we avoid the emotion shame and have a bad relationship with it? What are the benefits when we have a good relationship with the emotion shame? And lastly, how do you actually feel and process and release shame, you can say. So what exactly is shame? I don't think a lot of people have thought too much about it, but shame is actually a form of care for the group you're in or the society you're in, right? You don't want to do anything bad for the group, and you don't want to get kicked out of the tribe, you can say, and potentially die, right? So that's why your body creates this feeling, shame, right? Now, this was very good in the past, right? Because it helped you survive. The problem now is that a lot of the actions you want to take that is not bad for the group and the society, and the actions you want to take is necessary for whatever goals you're after, and now sometimes shame can get triggered when you want to take those actions. And that's the problem most people have with shame nowadays, right? And in my opinion, most of that shame is actually conditioned, you can say. It's things you've been taught to feel. So by that I mean, maybe when you were younger and you did certain things and your parents didn't like it and they shamed you or punished you, and because you were a child and they were your parents, you had to listen to them, or else your body thought it would die, right? And the thing is that when you grow up and become an adult, that if you haven't felt and processed those situations, it will it will kind of be stuck in your system or your body. And now, when there are certain actions you want to take that you want to take because there are certain goals you're after, those situations can trigger shame and it can hold you back, you can say, right? So it could be desires you're after, and it could also be parts of your personality that you are ashamed of, right? Because you were shamed for it when you were younger, and now when it's actually not dangerous, but your body still think it's dangerous because it was shamed for it when you were younger. So I believe almost all of shame is conditioned, right? There's probably like a little part of shame that is not conditioned, that is natural. Like, if you intentionally hurt somebody, right? I think most of us would feel like this natural shame, even though no one shamed us for it or taught us to be ashamed of it. So I think a small part of shame is natural, but most of it, I think, is conditional or conditioned. And yeah, I think it can come in like different forms or intensity too. How I look at it is like shame is kind of the main category, right? And I think you also have embarrassment, which is a form of shame, and you also have humiliation, which I also think is a part of shame, but you can say like a deeper form of shame. Now, what's bad about so that's shame, and what's bad about shame being kind of stuck in our body, you can say, or what's bad about how most people are avoiding shame or their relationship with shame. And I touched upon it, right, with our desires and parts of our personality, right, that we're ashamed of it, and it holds us back from our goals. It makes us feel like we can't be ourselves fully, right? So that's two big negative consequences, right? Another thing is that it's probably the thing that also is keeping you stuck with your bad habits. So there's a saying that shame is the lock that binds your bad habits together. And to give an example of this, right? It's very typical if a parent shame their kid for something, that kid will continue to do it. And another thing related to this is almost all of us The way we talk to ourselves is we say we should do this or we shouldn't do that. And most people don't think about it, but this word should is actually a form of shame. You're shaming yourself, right? I shouldn't eat this, or I shouldn't stay awake for this long, right? You're trying to shame yourself out of the bad habit. But what usually happens when you do this is that the bad habit never goes away, right? You can probably think of it yourself, all the bad habits that you have, that you tell yourself you shouldn't do or should do. In other words, trying to shame yourself, they kind of stay stuck. And you can even feel the difference, right? So let's say you want to go to the gym and you say, I should go to the gym today, right? Which is shame. And you change the word should to I want to go to the gym today. Just try to say those two sentences and you will feel the difference immediately. I should go to the gym, and you will feel this shame put on top of you. But I want to go to the gym. There is no shame. It's just pure desire. I want to go to the gym. Right? Another way is I get to go to the gym, right? Which get to is actually gratefulness, right? So now you're using the emotion gratefulness, right? Another negative thing here is that avoiding shame will just recreate situations that will create more shame. So I will give an example soon. But it works with every emotion, right? The emotion you're trying to avoid, you will just recreate a situation that will trigger more of that emotion in your life. So, for example, with shame, right? If you're really scared of the emotion shame or you're avoiding it, an example could be, let's say you want to ask for something, but you're ashamed of asking it, so you don't ask it. But do you really need that answer? So you wait and wait and wait until it's like last minute, and now you ask for it. You have to, right? And when you do it now, the situation is actually a lot worse, you can say. It's a lot more difficult. And it actually creates more shame this time. Versus if you just asked for it in the beginning, it wouldn't really create that much shame. You were just ashamed of it inside yourself, right? I also have a example of this from my sister. I don't know if she wants the story to be here, but so we actually had a dinner, my family, with her boyfriend's family, and she was really afraid of this feeling, shame, right? She was afraid that there would be certain cultural differences, and she were kind of ashamed of that. So because she was trying so hard to avoid that feeling, she was trying to be very controlling during, the dinner we had with certain things. And in her head, like, she was trying to control it and avoid it, right? And from my perspective, from the outside, it looked very silly. Like it was very clear that she was stressed and trying to control certain things. And at least for me, and I don't think anybody around were like, we didn't feel any shame for the cultural differences, right? Like I looked at it as positive, and I think the parents of my sister's boyfriend also didn't mind it. It was just kind of cool with differences. It was kind of just my sister. And by her trying to control the situation so hard during the dinner, that actually, you can say, recreated shame, right? Because now she's acting in a way that is very weird, right? And maybe a more precise word for it would be the emotion embarrassment. She was afraid of the emotion embarrassment. She was trying to control it. And by her acting in that way, you can say actually created embarrassment. So, in terms of the emotional fluidity, you can call it, or you can say one of the goals with this emotion series is that we become very fluid with our emotions, right? We feel everything. And shame is kind of like a blocker emotion, right? It blocks the fluidity. So there's usually, so shame could be the emotion you're avoiding, right? As with my examples. But it also could be a blocker emotion for another emotion you're avoiding, right? So for example, if you're avoiding the emotion anger, right, you put shame on top of anger. So you're kind of ashamed when you get angry. So you don't feel anger, right? And you put shame on top of it. And that blocks the emotional fluidity, right? And we want to become emotional fluid. So you can get into this. So not only is it a blocker for emotional fluidity, but you can also create this shame spiral, which is pretty devastating. But it kind of works like this, right? Let's say there's an emotion you're avoiding, let's say anger or sadness, right? And you feel ashamed of it. So you shame yourself, right? I shouldn't feel angry, or I shouldn't feel sad. So you put shame on top of it, right? Which is a bad thing. And another worse thing that can happen is you can shame yourselves for being ashamed of anger, right? So you put shame on top of the shame that was on top of the anger, right? So you see how, and it can get even worse, right? You can get angry. You can get angry for shaming yourself for the shame you put on top of your anger, right? So it can get like really messy here with the emotions. And maybe the last thing I would say with the negative consequences of shame is a lot of us really, when we feel shame, we're really thinking that there's something wrong with us. Like that part of us that we feel ashamed of, whether that's, the desire, one of your desires you want to go for, or parts of your personality, you feel that there's something wrong with a part of you. Like you're tying your self-worth into it, which is pretty devastating. And, a good question to kind of counter and ponder on this is this: if you were inherently good, what is there to be ashamed of? It's a question to ponder on, right? In my opinion, beneath all the emotional trauma and patterns or bad habits, you can say, that people have, I think the essence of all humans are good. I think everyone is inherently good. But yeah, I can dive into that philosophy in another video, but it's a really interesting question to ponder on whenever you feel shame about something, right? When you feel shame, you can ask yourself that question. If I'm inherently good, what is there to be ashamed of? So let's actually go through how to feel and process and release shame, you can say. So that question I just asked you, that's one of the things. But yeah, let's go through kind of the main ways to do it. So to actually do it sounds very simple, but what you actually want to do is just to feel it. And I'll dive deeper. So you can both do it at home and also in situations that trigger it. But let's say you're doing it at home first. You can visualize a scenario that triggers shame in you. So you can either just sit down or lay down. And when you do it, you want to feel the shame. And by that, I mean, so all emotions are actually just sensations in your body, right? So when I say feel the emotion, I mean that I'm asking you to feel the sensations in your body. And specifically for shame, right? How does the sensations in your body feel for shame? And yeah, most people are not aware of it, right? Maybe it's easier to explain it with anger first, right? The emotion anger, if we translate it to the sensations in your body, for most people it will be kind of sensations throughout the chest, right? And you will start to get hot in the chest. Now, what is it for shame, right? And most people have no idea because they don't feel the sensations in their body, right? They kind of numb themselves. And yeah, for me at least, it's like the sensations throughout the shoulders and neck and maybe a bit of the jaw. And I kind of want to make myself small, right? And kind of do like this. And yeah, I also watched a kid get embarrassed one time. And yeah, this is another hack, but kids are kind of masters at emotional fluidity, right? And we all were when we were kids, but then we got punished by our parents, so we got numb and restricted everything. But yeah, so like a cool hack is to kind of watch kid how they process emotions. But yeah, I saw this kid got embarrassed, and he kind of did like that to move the shame or embarrassment, and then after that, he was free, you can say, from the emotion. And that sounds very simple, but how a lot of us deal with shame, and at least how I dealt with shame, is that when I felt shame, I didn't do that movement. I actually restricted my body to not do anything and pretended everything was okay. Yeah, so the camera ran out. But yeah, let me try to pick up where I left. So I think that I was restricting against it, right? So that's how most people do. So what you want to do is to actually feel it, right? Feel the sensations, where it is in your body, really investigate it, right? And kind of just stay there, like where does it move? How does it move, right? Is it in the shoulders, the neck, right? It's basically like an emotional meditation, you can say. And yeah, you might notice that your body kind of naturally wants to restrict against it because that's what you've been doing your whole life, right? You've been avoiding the emotion, you've been scared of it, so your default reaction is to restrict against it. But yeah, I'm asking you to do the opposite, right? To not restrict against it, relax into it. And yeah, if it wants to do a movement, like, doing this, keep making yourself small, allow yourself to do it. Because that's how you actually feel and process an emotion and release it, you can say. So that's feeling shame directly, right? You can do it at home, or you could do it in the situations that trigger shame too, in real time, if the situation allows for it, right? If the situation allows for it, you can kind of step a bit out of the situation and allow yourself to feel shame instead of restricting against it, and instead of pretending everything is okay. So that's kind of like the first main way. Another way is to, as I said, shame is often a blocker emotion of another emotion that you're avoiding. So let's say if you're avoiding anger, right? If you allow yourself to feel and process and release anger, just as we did with shame, that process of how to feel and release, if you do it with the underlying emotion, for example, anger, the shame that was attached to anger will naturally also dissolve. And the third thing that I want to mention, the last method, you can say, is to, if you have or can find a group of people that can be supportive or be in love of the things you're ashamed of, that will also be very effective in healing shame. Because shame in and of itself is created in social settings, right? It's created by other people, you can say. So by healing it through a group of people is also very, very effective, right? The only thing is that it's kind of hard to find a group. It's kind of hard to have a group of friends that can do that, or find a group of people. But there's definitely some out there, right? There's some coaches that facilitate this kind of work. So you can kind of look around and see if there's something there for you. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to go through in this video, with shame. This was the second video for the emotion series, as I mentioned in the beginning. The next video will probably be about anger, so be on the lookout for that. I already made it, I think. So yeah, I already made it, so I will post it very soon. Yeah, if you like the video, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps out a lot. And comment anything you want below. Yeah, I will link, the intro videos of the emotion series below, and the fear video too. I will probably create a playlist for that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next video. Bye. Whoop.